These are the sounds of days that are past.
Not trying to solve these problems. We've got to rise up. We've got to organize. We've got to mobilize. And we've got to work to solve these problems.
Martin Luther King, poor boy, is under the influence of the foxes. I should say under the control of the foxes, and has been used by the foxes to lead the poor sheep right to the slaughter.
We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
Our brother Martin Luther King exhausted a means of nonviolence with his life being taken by some racist. What is being done to us is what we hate, and what happened to Martin Luther King is what we hate. We must defend ourselves, as Malcolm X said, by any means necessary.
Set our warrior free.
Greenwood!
Black is beautiful.
Greenwood!
Set our warrior free.
Black Manifesto 1969. To the white Christian churches and the Jewish synagogues in the United States of America and all other racist institutions. We, the black people assembled in Detroit, Michigan for the National Black Economic Development Conference, are fully aware that we have been forced to come together because racist white America has exploited our resources, our minds, our bodies, our labor. For centuries, we have been forced to live as colonized people inside the United States, victimized by the most vicious, racist system in the world. We have helped to build the most industrial country in the world. We are therefore demanding of the white Christian churches and Jewish synagogues, which are part and parcel of the system of capitalism, that they began to pay reparations to black people in this country. We are demanding $500 million from the Christian white churches and the Jewish synagogues. We do not intend to abuse our black brothers and sisters in black churches who have uncritically accepted Christianity. We want them to understand how the racist white Christian church, with its hypocritical declarations and doctrines of brotherhood, has abused our trust and faith. An attack on the religious beliefs of black people is not our major objective. Even though we know that we were not Christians when we were brought to this country, but that Christianity was used to help enslave us. Our objective in issuing this manifesto is to force the racist white Christian church to begin the payment of reparations, which are due to all black people, not only by the church, but also by private business and the U.S. government. We see this focus on the Christian church as an effort around which all black people can unite. Our demands are negotiable, but they cannot be minimized. They can only be increased, and the church is asked to come up with larger sums of money than we are asking. Our slogans are:
all roads must lead to revolution.
Unite with whomever you can unite.
Neutralize wherever possible.
Fight our enemies relentlessly.
Life and good health to mankind.
Resistance to the domination by the white Christian churches and the Jewish synagogues.
Revolutionary black power.
We shall win. without a doubt.
Today, national independence and nation building in the underdeveloped regions take on an entirely new aspect. In these regions, except for some remarkable achievements, every country suffers from the same lack of infrastructure. The masses battle with the same poverty, wrestle with the same age-old gestures, and delineate what we could call the geography of hunger with their shrunken bellies. A world of underdevelopment, a world of poverty and inhumanity, but also a world without doctors, without engineers, without administrators. Facing this world, the European nations wallow in the most ostentatious opulence. This European opulence is literally a scandal, for it was built on the backs of slaves. It fed on the blood of slaves and owes its very existence to the soil and subsoil of the underdeveloped world. Europe's well-being and progress were built with the sweat and corpses of blacks, Arabs, Indians, and Asians. This we are determined never to forget. When a colonialist country, embarrassed by a colony's demand for independence, proclaims with the nationalist leader in mind,
"If you want independence, take it and return to the Dark Ages."
the newly independent people nod their approval and take up the challenge.
They're killing niggas again down the tier, all day, every day. They are killing niggas and them protesters with small workings of mouth. One of them told a pig today that he was going to be awful disappointed with the pig if the pig didn't shoot some niggas or protesters this evening when he got off work. The pig found it very amusing. They went off on a 20-minute political discussion, pig and his convict supporter. There is something very primitive about these people, something very fearful. And all the time I've been down here on Maximum Road, no brother has ever spoken to one of these people. We never speak about them, you know, across the cells. Every brother down here is under the influence of the party line, and racist terms like monkey have never been uttered. All of these are beautiful brothers, ones who have stepped across the line into the position for which there can be no retreat. All are fully committed. They are the most desperate and dauntless of our kind. I love them. They are men and they do not fight with their mouths. They brought them here from prisons all over the state to be warehoused or murdered. Whichever is more expedient. That brother Edwards, who was murdered in that week in January, told his lawyer that he would never get out of prison alive. He was at the time of that statement on Maximum Road, death row, Soledad, California, 21 years old. We have made it a point to never exchange words with these people. But they never relent. There are some people who will never learn new response. They will carry what they incorporated into their characters at early youth to the grave. Some can never be educated.
This shit is starting to thicken. 6 in Georgia, 2 in Jackson, hard hats, counter demonstrations, much like Germany in the 30s. That thing in Georgia and the one in Jackson were like turkey shoots. We die all together too easily. Each one of those brothers has fathers, blood brothers, sisters, and mamas. But it's safe to assume that no positive response will be made. No eye-for-eye reprisal. Something very wrong has swept over us. We've grown so accustomed to seeing murder done to us that no one takes it seriously anymore. We've grown numb, immune to the pain. Charles Evers and the entire world knows who killed Medgar Evers. The murderer is still walking the streets.
Slavery is an economic condition. Today's neo-slavery must be defined in terms of economics. The chattel is a property. One man exercising the property rights of its established economic order. The other man as that property. The owner can move that property or hold it in 1 square yard of the earth's surface. He can let it breathe other slaves, or make it breathe other slaves. He can sell it, beat it, work it, maim it, fuck it, kill it. But if he wants to keep it and enjoy all the benefits that property of this kind render, he must feed it sometimes. He must clothe it against the elements. he must provide a marking of shelter. Chattel slavery is an economic condition which manifests itself in the total loss or absence of self-determination. The new slavery, the modern variety of chattel slavery updated to disguise itself, places the victim in a factory, or in the case of most blacks, in support roles inside and around the factory system, service trades, working for a wage. However, it won't work, work cannot be found in or around the factory complex. Today's neo-slavery does not allow even for a modicum of food and shelter. You are free to starve. The sense and meaning slavery comes through a result of our ties to the wage. You must have it. Without it, you would starve or expose yourself to the elements. One entire day centers around the acquisition of the wage. The control of your 8 or 10 hours on the job is determined by others. You are left with 14 to 16 hours. Since you don't live at the factory, you have to subtract at least another hour for transportation. Then you are left with 13 to 15 hours to yourself. If you can afford 3 meals, you are left with 10 to 12 hours. Rest is also a factor in efficiency, so we have to take 8 hours away for sleeping, leaving 2 to 4 hours. But one must bathe, comb, clean teeth, shave, dress. There is no point in protracting this. I think it should be generally accepted that if a man or woman works for a wage at a job that he doesn't enjoy, and I am convinced that no one can enjoy any type of assembly line work, or plumbing, or hod carrying, or any job in the service trades, then he qualifies for the definition of a neo-slave. The man who owns the factory or shop or business runs your life. You are dependent on this owner. He organizes your work, the work upon which your whole life source and style depends. He indirectly determines your whole day in organizing you to work. If you don't make any more wage than you need, then you are a neo-slave. You qualify if you cannot afford to leave California for New York. If you cannot visit Zanzibar or Havana, Peking, or even Paris when you get the urge, you are a slave. If you're held in one spot on this earth because of your economic status, it is just the same as being held in one spot because you are the owner's property. Here in the black colony, the pigs still beat and maim us. They murder us and call it justifiable homicide. A brother who had a smoking pipe in his belt was shot in the back of the head. Neo-slavery is an economic condition, a small knot of men exercising the property rights of their established economic order, organizing and controlling the life of the slave as if he were in fact property. Succinctly, an economic condition which manifests itself in the total loss or absence of self-determination. Only after this is understood and accepted can we go on to this dialectic that will help us in a remedy. A diagnosis of our discomfort is necessary before the surgery. It's always necessary to justify the letting of blood.
Revolutionary change means the seizure of all that is held by the 1% and the transference of these holdings into the hands of the remaining 99%. If the 1% are simply displaced by another 1%, revolutionary change is not taking place. A social revolution after the fact of the modern capitalist corporate state can only mean the breakup of that state and a completely new form of economics and culture. As slaves, we understand that ownership and the mechanics of distribution must be reversed. The problem of the black colony and the brown colony, those of the entire 99% who are being manipulated, can never be redressed as long as the necessary resources for their solution are the personal property of an extraneous minority motivated solely by the need for its own survival. And that extraneous minority will never consider the proper solutions. We have this on record from a voice speaking from inside the Fourth Reich, a lieutenant governor of California, orating in public on poverty.
1/3 of the population would always be ill-housed, ill-clothed, and ill-fed. Many urban problems are really conditions that we cannot change or do not want to incur the disadvantages of changing.
His 1/3 statement was really a calculated understatement. To the slave, revolution is an imperative, a love-inspired, conscious act of desperation. It's aggressive. It isn't cool or cautious. It's bold, audacious, violent, an expression of icy, disdainful hatred. It can hardly be any other way without raising a fundamental contradiction. If revolution, and especially revolution in America, is anything less than an effective defense attack weapon and a charter for the people to mount now, it is meaningless to the great majority of the slaves. If revolution is tied to dependence on the inscrutability of long-range politics, it cannot be made relevant to the person who expects to die tomorrow. There can be no rigid time control attached to the process that offers itself as relief, not if those for whom it is principally intended are under attack now. If the proponents of revolution cannot learn to distinguish and translate the theoretical into the practical, if they continue to debate just how to call up and harness the conscious motive forces of revolution, the revolutionary ideal will be the loser. It will be rejected. The principal reservoir of revolutionary potential in America lies in wait in the black colony. Its sheer numerical strength, its desperate historical relation to the violence of the productive system, and the fact of its present status in the creation of wealth, forced the black stratum at the base of the whole class structure into the forefront of any revolutionary scheme. 30% of all industrial workers are black. Close to 40% of all industrial support roles are filled by blacks. Blacks are still doing the work of the greatest slave state in history. The terms of our servitude are all that has been altered.
After we closed the pool, the racists in Monroe went wild. On the same day, after we had gone home, a mob dragged a colored man from his car and took him out into the woods where they beat him, stood him up against a tree, and threatened to shoot him. I had called the Associated Press and the UPI and reported that this man had been kidnapped, and I also called the Justice Department. Apparently, just when this man's attackers were getting ready to shoot him, the chief of police came out and rescued him. How did the chief of police know where to find him in the woods? Later on, this Negro was unable to indict anyone who had attacked him, even though he recognized some of the members of the would-be lynch mob. The FBI refused to demand any indictments for kidnapping. The racists would come through the colored community at night and fire guns. We had an exchange of gunfire on a number of occasions. One night, an armed attack was led on my house by a sergeant of the State National Guard. He was recognized, but no action was taken against him. And the chief of police denied that an attack had taken place. We kept appealing to the federal government. It was necessary to keep a guard of about 20 volunteers going every night. Men who volunteered to sleep at my house and to walk guard. This is the only way that we could ward off attacks by the racists. The telephone would ring around the clock, sometimes every 15 minutes, with threatening phone calls.
In 1968, Mrs. Georgia White, a Negro mother of 5 children who worked in a Monroe hotel as a maid, was kicked down a flight of stairs into the lobby of the hotel by a white guest. He said he kicked Mrs. White down a flight of stairs because she had been making too much noise while working in the corridor and had disturbed his sleep. When we asked for an indictment, the chief of police, A.A. Money, refused our request. Finally, when we threatened to take legal action by bringing in the NAACP lawyers, he relented and placed this man under a $75 bond. Even though this white defendant subsequently failed to appear in court for his trial, he was not convicted. That same day, there was another colored woman in court, Mrs. Mary Ruth Reed. Mrs. Reed was 8 months pregnant. She was the victim of an attempted rape by a white man who came to her house, drove her from her house, and then beat her. He caught her while she was trying to escape down the main highway and knocked her to the ground. Mrs. Reed's 7-year-old boy was running along the side, and when the white rapist beat his mother, the boy picked up a stick and started hitting the man over the head with it while his mother escaped. She went to a neighbor's house, and her neighbor called the police and gave her aid. The neighbor was a white woman, and she came to court that day with Mrs. Reed. She came and testified that she had seen the defendant chasing Mrs. Reed, and that Mrs. Reed had come to her house in an excited and hysterical state without shoes and with her clothes torn from her. This testimony required considerable courage on the part of Mrs. Reed's white neighbor. During the trial, the defense attorney arranged for the defendant's wife to sit at his side as if she were also involved in this case. Then the defense attorney appealed to the jury. He said,
"Judge, Your Honor, and ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you see this man. This is his wife. This woman, this white woman, is the pure flower of life. She is one of God's lovely creatures, a pure flower. And do you think this man would have left this pure flower for that?"
And he made it appear as if the colored woman was actually on trial. Then the defense ended by saying,
"It's just a matter of whether or not you're going to believe this woman or this white man. Judge, Your Honor, this man is not guilty of any crime. He was just drinking and having a little fun."
The man was acquitted. Mrs. Reed had several brothers who had wanted to kill her white attacker before the trial, but I persuaded them not to do anything. I said that this was a matter that would be handled legally, that we would get a lawyer, which we did. We brought a lawyer all the way from New York who wasn't even allowed to take the floor in court. So I was responsible for this would-be rapist not being punished. The courtroom was full of colored women, and when this man was acquitted, they turned to me and said,
"Now what are you going to do? You've opened the floodgates on us. Now these people know that they can do anything that they want to do to us, and there's no prospect of punishment under the law. And it means that we have been exposed to these people, and you're responsible for it. Now what are you going to say?"
I told them that in a civilized society, the law is a deterrent against the strong who would take advantage of the weak. But the South is not a civilized society. The South is a social jungle. So in cases like this, we have to revert to the law of the jungle. It had become necessary for us to create our own deterrent. I said that in the future, we would defend our women and children, our homes, and ourselves with our arms. That way we would meet violence with violence.
Black brothers, black sisters, I want you to know that I love you. And I hope that somewhere in your hearts, you have love for me. My name is Asada Shakur, slave name Joanne Chesaron. And I am a revolutionary, a black revolutionary. By that I mean that I have declared war on all forces that have raped our women, castrated our men, and kept our babies empty-bellied. I have declared war on the rich who prosper on our poverty, the politicians who lie with smiling faces, and all the mindless, heartless robots who protect them and their property. I am a black revolutionary, and as such, I am a victim of all the wrath, hatred, and slander that America is capable of. Like all other black revolutionaries, America is trying to lynch me, y'all. I am a black revolutionary woman, and because of this, I have been charged with and accused of every alleged crime in which a woman was believed to have participated. the alleged crimes in which only men were supposedly involved, I have been accused of planning. They have plastered pictures alleged to be me in post offices, airports, hotels, police cars, subways, banks, television, and newspapers. They have offered over $50,000 in rewards for my capture, and they have issued orders to shoot on sight, shoot to kill. I am a black revolutionary, and by definition that means I'm a part of the Black Liberation Army. The pigs have used their newspapers and television to paint the Black Liberation Army as vicious, brutal, mad dog criminals. They have called us gangsters and gun laws and have compared us to such characters as John Dillinger and Ma Barker. It should be clear, it must be clear to anyone who can think, see, or hear that we are the victims and not the criminals. It should also be clear to you by now who the real criminals are. Nixon and his crime partners have murdered hundreds of third world brothers and sisters in Vietnam, Cambodia, Mozambique, Angola, and South Africa. As was proved by Watergate, the top law enforcement officials in this country are a lying bunch of criminals. The president, 2 attorney generals, the head of the FBI, the head of the CIA, and half the White House staff have been implicated in the Watergate crimes. They call us murderers, but we did not murder over 250 unarmed black men, women, and children, or wound thousands of others in the riots they provoked during the 60s. The rulers of this country have always considered their property more important than our lives. Hey. They call us murderers, but we were not responsible for the 28 brothers, inmates, and 9 hostages murdered at Africa. They call us murderers, but we did not murder and wound over 30 unarmed black students at Jackson State or Southern State either.
Revolution is bloody. Revolution is hostile. Revolution knows no compromise. Revolution overturns and destroys everything that gets in its way. And you, sitting around here like a knot on the wall saying, I'm gonna love these folks no matter how much they hate me. No, you need a revolution. Who ever heard of a revolution where they lock arms, singing, we shall overcome? You don't do that in a revolution. You don't do any singing, you too busy swinging.
Now there were 2 kinds of slaves. The house Negro and the field Negro. The house Negroes, they lived in a house with masters. They dressed pretty good. They ate good because they ate his food, what he left. They lived in the attic or the basement, but still they lived near the master. And they loved the master, more than the master loved himself. They would give their life to stay the master's house, quicker than the master would. If the master said, we got a good house here, the house Negro would say, yeah, we got a good house here. Whenever the master said we, he said we. That's how you can tell a house Negro. Now, if the master's house caught fire, the house Negro would fight hard to put out the blaze than the master would. If the master got sick, the house Negro would say, what's the matter, boss? We sick? We sick? He identified himself with his master, more than the master identified with himself. And if you came to the house Negro, and you said, let's run away, let's escape, let's separate, the house Negro would look at you and say, man, you crazy. What you mean, separate? Where is there a better house than this? Where can I wear better clothes than this? Where can I eat better food than this? That was the house Negro. In those days, we called them a house nigga, and that's what we call them today, because we still got some house niggas running around here. This modern house Negro loves his master. He wants to live near him. He'll pay about. I'm the only Negro out here. I'm the only one on my job. I'm the only one in this school. You're nothing but a house Negro. And if someone comes to you right now and says, let's separate, you say the same thing that the house Negro said on the plantation. What you mean, separate? From America? This good white man? Where you gonna get a better job than this that you got here? I mean, this is what you say. Ain't left nothing in Africa. That's what you say. Why, you left your mind in Africa. On the same plantation, there was the field Negro. Now, the field Negroes, those were the masters. There were always more Negroes in the field than there were Negroes in the house. The Negro in the field called head. He ate leftovers. In the house, they ate half on the home. The Negro in the field didn't get anything but what was left on the insides of the house. They call it chitlins nowadays. In those days, they called them what they were, guts. That's what you were, gut eaters. And some of you are still gut eaters. The field Negro was beat from morning to night. He lived in a shack, in a hut. He wore old cast-off clothes. He hated his master. I said he hated his master. He was intelligent. That house Negro loved his master, but the field Negro, remember, they were in the majority. They hated the master. When the house caught on fire, he didn't try to put it out. That field Negro prayed for a wind, prayed for a good breeze. When the master got sick, the field Negro prayed that he died. If someone came to the field Negro and said, let's separate, let's one, he didn't say, where we going? He'd say, any place is better than here. You got field Negroes in America today. I'm a field Negro. The masses are field Negroes.
No more pigs in our community.
Off the pigs.
No more pigs in our community.
Off the pigs.
No more pigs in our community.
Off the pigs.
No more pigs in our community.
Off the pigs.
No more brothers in jail.
Off the pigs.
The pigs are gonna catch hell.
Off the pigs.
No more brothers in jail. Pigs are gonna catch hell.
Off the pigs.
Just as the slave master of that day used Tom, the house Negro, to keep the field Negroes in check, the same old slave master today has Negroes who are nothing but modern Uncle Toms, 20th century Uncle Toms, to keep you and me in check, to keep us under control, keep us passive and peaceful and non-violent. That's Tom making you non-violent. It's like when you go to the dentist and the man's gonna take your tooth. You're gonna fight him when he starts pulling, so he squirts some stuff in your jaw called Novocaine to make you think that they're not gonna do anything to you. So you sit there, and because you've got all that Novocaine in your jaw, you suffer peacefully. Blood running all down your jaw, and you don't know what's happening, but someone has taught you to suffer peacefully. The white man does the same thing to you in the street when he wants to put knots on your head and take advantage of you and not have you to be afraid of your fighting back. To keep you from fighting back, he gets these old religious Uncle Toms to teach you and me, just like Novocaine, to suffer peacefully. Don't stop suffering, just suffer peacefully.
The revolution has come.
Off the pigs.
Time to pick up the gun.
Off the pigs.
The revolution has come.
Off the pigs.
Time to pick up the gun.
Off the pigs. Our religion teaches us to be intelligent, to be peaceful, be courteous, obey the law, respect everyone. But if someone puts his hands on you, send him to the cemetery. That's a good religion. In fact, that's that old time religion. That's the one that Ma and Pa used to talk about. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, and a head for a head. and a life for a life. That's a good religion. And nobody resents that kind of religion being taught but a wolf, who intends to make you his meal. This is the way it is with the white man in America. He's a wolf, and you're sheep. Anytime a shepherd pastor teaches you and me not to run from the white man, and at the same time teaches us not to fight the white man, he's a traitor to you and me. Don't lay down a life all by itself. No, you preserve your life. It's the best thing you've got. And if you don't give it up, let it be even steeper.
Off the pigs.
Time to pick up the gun.
Off the pigs.
The Negroes were out there in the streets. They were talking about how they were going to march on Washington. Right at that time, Birmingham had exploded. And the Negroes in Birmingham, remember, they also exploded. They began to stab the crackers in the back and bust them upside the head. Yes, they did. That's when Kennedy sent in the troops down in Birmingham. After that, Kennedy got on the television and said, this is a moral issue. That's when he said he was going to put out a civil rights bill. And when he mentioned civil rights bill and the Southern crackers started talking about how they were going to boycott or filibuster it, then the Negroes started talking about what? That they were going to march on Washington, march on the city, march on the White House, march on the Congress and tie it up, bring it to a halt, not let the government proceed. They even said they were going out to the airport and lay down on the runway and not let any planes land. I'm telling you what they said. That was revolution. That was revolution. That was the Black Revolution.
I might stop right here to point out one thing. Whenever you're going after something that belongs to you, anyone who's depriving you of the right to have it is a criminal. Understand that. Whenever you are going after something that is yours, you are within your legal rights to lay claim to it. And anyone who puts forth any effort to deprive you of that which is yours is breaking the law, is a criminal. And this was pointed out by the Supreme Court decision. It outlawed segregation, which means segregation is against the law, which means segregationist is breaking the law. A segregationist is a criminal. You can't label him anything other than that. And when you demonstrate against segregation, the law is on your side. The Supreme Court is on your side. Now, who is it that opposes you carrying out the law? The police department itself, with police dogs and clubs. Whenever you demonstrate against segregation, whether it is segregated education, segregated housing, or anything else, the law is on your side. And anyone who stands in the way is not the law any longer. They are breaking the law. They are not representatives of the law. Anytime you demonstrate against segregation, and a man has the audacity to put a police dog on you, kill that dog. Kill him. I'm telling you, kill that dog. I said, if they put me in jail tomorrow, kill that dog. Then you'll put a stop to it. Now, if these white people in here don't want to see that kind of action, get down and tell the mayor to tell the police department to pull the dogs in. That's all you have to do. If you don't do it, someone else will. If you don't take this kind of stand, your little children will grow up and look at you and think shame. If you don't take an uncompromising stand, and I don't mean go out and get violent, but at the same time, you should never be nonviolent unless you run into some nonviolence. I'm nonviolent with those who are nonviolent with me. But when you drop that violence on me, then you've made me go insane, and I'm not responsible for what I do. And that's the way every Negro should get. Anytime you know you're within the law, within your legal rights, within your moral rights in accord with justice, then die for what you believe in, but don't die alone. Let your dying be reciprocal. This is what is meant by equality. What's good for the goose is good for the gander.
I have never liked Ronald Reagan. Even back in the days of his bad movies, bullshit flicks that never turned me on to any glow, I felt about him the way I felt about such non-violent cowboys as Roy Rogers and Gene Autry, that they were never going to cause any action or allow anything to happen. They were just there, occupying space and wasting my time, my money, and my sanity. There was a sort of unreality in their style. One knew that movies were into make-believe, a make-believe bag. But the unreality espoused on the screen by the flat souls of such platinum-fed actors as Reagan reflected to me black ghetto nigga me. A sickening mixed bag of humorless laughter and perfect Colgate teeth with never a hint of the real funk of life. Insipid, promising nothing and delivering even less, a Reagan movie was nothing to get excited about. There would be no surprises. But what happened was that Ronnie landed a TV show. Equipped with opulent sponsors and some slick script writers, the mediocrity of his grade B spirit was glossed over and concealed by the makeup of a rhetoric fashioned by a committee of crew-cut wordmongers. With all this going for him, it was natural for him to turn to politics when Hollywood's keenest makeup artists began to find it increasingly difficult to deal with the wrinkles that were slowly turning his face into a replica of well-furrowed, depleted, single-crop soil. He was in the best of all states to get into this thing. California had demonstrated its ability to relate to the politics of the absurd by electing to office such blobs of political putty as Richard Nixon and Max Bradford. And having picked the proper place, he could not have chosen a better style. Ronnie used a pat formula.
The last 6 months, I've been traveling up and down the state.
Used a pat formula that said, pick the toughest problems confronting the people and launch blistering attacks upon all sincere efforts to come to grips with these problems. Offer as an alternative a conglomeration of single-minded cliches and catchphrases that go back to the Mayflower. Sing the Star-Spangled Banner and smile broadly, effusively, as you wave the flag at the people. Use a fighting, I'm fed up form of delivery, and always deliver that when nothing else works, there is still the tried and proven gamut of demagogic politicians, especially in California, viciously attack the perennial whipping boys of the American dream. Subversion concealed in the words of textbooks, the decadence of universities and the misguided students being duped by a handful of professors who are under the subtle influence of the communist conspiracy. Well, it worked. Mickey Mouse is governor and Donald Duck is a candidate for the U.S. Senate. That is what we have to worry about and deal with. It has been said that the people get the rulers they deserve. I do not believe, however, that America has the rulers it deserves. The state of California, empathetically, could not deserve the rulers it has. Yet we have them, and this is an election year. And what an election year. This is the nightmare election year of the American dream. Everything is out in the open this year. Nobody is trying very hard to conceal anything. As usual, the key issue in the election is what to do about the niggas. And only this time, the question is being rewritten to read what to do with the niggas.
I see trouble in the air.
From the point of view of the niggas themselves, the question has also been rewritten and now reads, what are we going to do about this shit? A surprising development, one which offers this possibility, perhaps the only possibility, of a monkey wrench being tossed into the smoke dreams of the racist, is that a sizable portion of white Americans are in revolt against the system. So the issue of law and order, or crime in the streets, becomes key.
I read a story once where someone asked some group of people how many of them wanted freedom. They all put up their hand. I think there were about 300 of them. Then the person says, well, how many of you are ready to kill anybody who gets in your way for freedom? About 50 put up their hands. And he told those 50, you stand over here. That left 250 sitting there who wanted freedom but weren't ready to kill for it. So he told this 50, now you wanted freedom, and you said you'd kill anybody who'd get in your way. You see those 250? You get them first. Some of them are your own brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers, but they're the ones who stand in the way of your freedom. They're afraid to do whatever is necessary to get it, and they'll stop you from doing it. Get rid of them, and freedom will come naturally.
In California, Mickey Mouse looked out from his perch in Disneyland for an opening to get himself back into the act, having been kicked off the stage in Miami by a pig who had been in the game a little longer. From where he lurked, Mickey Mouse fixed his blank stare on the campus of the University of California, Berkeley. He had received a tip that a situation tailored to his needs existed on that campus, Eldridge Cleaver. The apotheosis of the American nightmare, loudmouth nigger, ex-convict, rapist, advocate of violence, presidential candidate, was retained by the Berkeley subversives to teach a class on the university campus to corrupt the morals of lily-white American youth. So Ronnie Baby, doing his Republican duty, emerged from his pen to take up the cudgels of battle. If Eldridge Cleaver is allowed to teach our children, they may come home some night and slit our throats. Therefore, the people of the state of California will not stand for this. Right on, Mickey Mouse. There are those of us who know what you are into, and we don't like it. Furthermore, we are going to deal with it. With you, to put an end to your absurd oinking in the faces of the people. So that all those bullshit changes that you went through with the Board of Regents, forcing them to emasculate the course in which I was to participate as a guest lecturer, don't mean shit. It displeased you, I understand, that even the Board of Regents did not buy you the whole hall. That in fact, they agreed to allow me to deliver one lecture. Big deal. Who the fuck do you think you are telling me that I can't talk? Telling the students and faculty members at UC Berkeley that they cannot have me deliver 10 lectures. I'm gonna do it whether you like it or not. In fact, my desire now is to deliver 20 lectures. You, Donald Duck Rafferty, Big Mama Unra, and that admitted member of the racist John Birch Society who introduced that resolution into legislature to censure those responsible for inviting me to lecture in the first place. All and each and every one of you kiss my black nigger ass because I recognize you for what you are, racist demagogues who have their eyes on the ballot box come November. The students and the faculty members at Berkeley are trying to salvage the American people from the brink of chaos that you pigs have brought on. Your thirst and greed for power is so great that you don't care whether or not in your lust you destroy the vital processes of a barbaric society that is trying in its parts to become civilized. I don't know what the outcome of all of this will be, but I do know that I, for one, will never kiss your ass, will never submit to your demagogic machinations. I think you are a cowardly, craven-hearted wretch. You are not a man, you are a punk. Since you have insulted me by calling me a racist, I would like to have the opportunity to balance the books. All I ask is a sporting chance. Therefore, Mickey Mouse, I challenge you to a duel, to the death. And you can choose the weapons. And if you can't relate to that, right on. Walk chicken with your ass picked clean.
Now you see why Mississippi is in trouble. And I hope that our brothers, especially our brothers here in Harlem, listen very well, very closely to what I call one of this country's foremost freedom fighters. You don't have to be a man to fight for freedom. All you have to do is be an intelligent human being. And automatically your intelligence makes you want freedom so badly that you'll do anything by any means necessary to get that freedom. And I want you to know that anything we can do to help them in Mississippi, we're at their disposal. One of the things that we will definitely provide you with, because I think it's the only real help that you can get down there, you can let loose those hooded people and let them know from here on in, when they start taking the lives of innocent black people, we believe in tit for tat. If if I were to go home and find some blood on the leg of one of my little girls, and my wife told me that a snake bit the child, I'd go looking for the snake. And if I find the snake, I wouldn't necessarily take time to see if it had blood in its jaws. As far as I'm concerned, the snake is the snake. So if snakes don't want someone hunting snakes indiscriminately, I say that snakes should get together and clean that snaky house. If snakes don't want people running around indiscriminately chopping off the heads of snakes, my advice to snakes would be to keep their house in order. I think you well understand what I'm saying. Now those were 21 snakes that killed those 3 brothers down there. 21. Those are snakes. And there is no law in any society on earth that would hold it against anyone for taking the heads of those snakes. Believe it, the whole world would honor you, honor anyone who did what the federal government refused to do. We should let them know that we believe in giving them what they deserve. There are brothers around the country right now, a lot of them who feel like I do, a lot of them who feel like I do. I even met white students who feel that way. When they tell me they're liberal, I tell them, great, go get me one of those snakeheads. I'm sincere about this. I think that there are many whites who are sincere, especially at the student level. They just don't know how to show their sincerity. They think that they're showing sincerity by going down there and encouraging our people to be non-violent. That's not where it's at. Since they're white, they can get close to the whiter than we can. They can put on a sheet and walk right on into camp with the rest of them. I'm telling you how to do it. You're a liberal, get you a sheet. And get you something up under that sheet that you know how to use and walk right on in that camp of shooting people with the rest of them. And show them how liberal you are. I'll come back and shake your hand all day long. I'll walk you around Harlem and tell everybody what a good white person you are. Because you've proved it. But I don't accept any non-violent liberals. This doesn't mean that you've got to be violent. But it means you can't be non-violent.
October 1966. Black Panther Party platform and program. What we want, what we believe. We want freedom. We want power to determine the destiny of our black community.
We believe that black people will not be free until we are able to determine our own destiny.
We want full employment of our people.
We believe that the federal government is responsible and obligated to give every man employment or guaranteed income. We believe that if the white American businessmen will not give full employment, then the means of production should be taken from the businessmen and placed in the community so that the people of the community can organize and employ all of its people and give a high standard of living.
We want an end to the robbery by the capitalists of our black community.
We believe that this racist government has robbed us, and now we are demanding the overdue death of 40 acres and 2 mules. 40 acres and 2 mules were promised 100 years ago as a restitution for slave labor and mass murder of black people. We will accept the payment in currency, which will be distributed to our men and community. The Germans are now aiding the Jews in Israel for the genocide of the Jewish people. The Germans murdered 6 million Jews. The American races has taken part in the slaughter of over 50 million black people. Therefore, we feel that this is a modest demand that we make.
We want decent housing, fit for shelter of human beings.
We believe that if the white landlords will not give decent housing to our black community, then the housing and the land should be made into co-ops, so that our community with government aid can build and make decent housing for its people.
We want education for our people that exposes the true nature of this decadent American society. We want education that teaches us our true history and our role in the present-day society.
We believe in an educational system that will give to our people a knowledge of self. If a man does not have knowledge of himself and his position in society and the world, then he has little chance to relate to anything else.
We want all black men to be exempt from military service.
We believe that black people should not be forced to fight in the military service to defend a racist government that does not protect us. We will not fight and kill other people of color in the world who, like black people, are being victimized by the white racist government of America. We will protect ourselves from the force and violence of the racist police and the racist military by whatever means necessary.
We want an immediate end to police brutality and murder of black people.
We believe we can end police brutality in our black community by organizing black self-defense groups that are dedicated to defending our black community from racist police oppression and brutality. The Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States gives a right to bear arms. We therefore believe that all black people should arm themselves for self-defense.
We want freedom for all black men held in federal, state, county, and city prisons and jails.
We believe that all black people should be released from the many jails and prisons because they have not received a fair and impartial trial.
We want all black people, when brought to trial, to be tried in a court by a jury of their peer group or people from their black communities, as defined by the Constitution of the United States.
We believe that the courts should follow the United States Constitution so that black people will receive fair trials. The 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution gives a man a right to be tried by his peer group. A peer is a person from a similar economic, social, religious, geographical, environmental, historical, and racial background. To do this, the court will be forced to select a jury from the black community from which the black defendant came. We have been and are being tried by all white juries that have no understanding of the average reasoning man of the black community.
We want land, bread, housing, education, clothing, justice, and peace. And as our major political objective, a United Nations supervised plebiscite to be held throughout the black colony in which only black colonial subjects will be allowed to participate for the purpose of determining the will of black people as to their national destiny.
When, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume, among the powers of the earth, the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We
hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their power from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute a new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness.
All power to the people.
All power to the people. All power to the people. All power to the people.
Revolution has come. Off the pig. Time to pick up.
shall make us free. Truth shall make us free. Truth shall make us free someday. Deep in my heart, I do believe truth shall make us free someday. We shall overcome. We shall